Hey folks, Tyler Allen here. Welcome back. I know as much as anybody, it's really tough to break into the creative field, whether it's in a professional sort of situation or more just independent career-based goals. So I'm here today to give you guys some tips that I've learned over 2021 to help you out. They're going to range from general career advice to how to mentally tackle different problems that we have to face on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And some of it will help you, of course, just manage and deal with clients and just general advice along those lines. So I want to help you out, and this video will be sponsored by Wingfox. More on that in a minute. And in the background of this video, I'm going to be painting this image, this cool sci-fi buggy keyframe piece of art. So we're going to get into that. You'll see how it was built. And so let's go and get this started. Hey guys, this video is sponsored by Wingfox. Now recently I've had the pleasure of checking out the course, A Comprehensive Beginner's Guide to Environment Painting from A to Z, and it walks us through the building blocks of environments from perspective and light to color and composition. And that's where they really had some great lessons on challenging topics of atmospheric perspective, grouping values to get the most out of your designs. There's always examples that are given so that we have a benchmark to aim for in our work. The lessons give us insight into artistic thinking as well as technical knowledge, so we can make the most out of all the tools in our arsenal. And finally, there is assignments and homework so that you can focus on the lessons and use the applied knowledge from them to practice everything that's been given. Overall, though, I did enjoy the course. It helped remind me that the basics are always the key to successfully making an image, and I definitely recommend checking it out at any skill level if you're looking for a refresher or to see another different way of working. In total, it was over 10 hours in length. The instructors were really talented, and the course both had demonstrations as well as lectures and assignments, those three core ingredients that will really help foster growth. And all the chapters are broken down into sub-chapters, so it's very easy to follow along. Definitely give it a go. Links in the description of this video. Alright guys, and so just for a little context before we begin, this buggy that you'll be seeing the demonstration of was part of a larger project. It's not complete by any sense, it's personal. It's been one that I've been developing over the last few months with the patrons. They're getting just full blowout on all of this, but yeah, some of this is work in progress. It's getting there, but you can see some of the buggy designs. Basically just drew it. We built it up in 3D, got that looking basically like a little bit better. So this is like a little bit of the original kind of model, and then essentially what we'll be doing in this video is taking a very bare basic render of that, and we're going to be painting over it. We're going to make it look cinematic, we're going to make it look flashy, a little more keyframe like. And yeah, and there's a way at the very end, by the way, stick to the end, I'll mention a way, and you can get this full video that you're going to watch now. It's about an hour long, and I'll actually be explaining what I'm doing throughout it, so it'll be a little more of a formal tutorial. So yeah, I'll be giving that away for free. Anyone can have access to it, so find out how. Alright, let's get into the actual content here. Alright, so for my first big lesson of the year, I've been trying to learn and adapt to not selling exactly what I do. I'm trying to sell the results I create. Basically, at a surface level, I'm trying to actively not go out there and just hustle. Hey, I'm really good at environments. Pick me, this is what I do, I'm the best for the job. I'm more so just focusing, in the moment, slowing down, making sure I'm as thorough and consistent as possible, and just really putting the effort into the work and letting the work, both with myself and my students even, sell what I can offer and help people, help clients potentially with. So for instance, perhaps in the past I'd used to just like post images and links to my school or something like that, right? Where it's like, hey, go to sign up at Brush Style Studio, learn, get better. But nowadays I'll try to like take something that the students are actually working on or some demo I did for them, turn it into like an educational lesson and make a YouTube video out of it specifically, build it into a slides or like a carousel on for Instagram, build a whole lesson, an Instagram based lesson on it, or I'll make a blog post article on ArtStation with the content and just, you know, without asking anybody anything, just simply have my contact info at the end of that. And that seems to have been working, you know, the last few months, you know, much better than just shoving very shamelessly my own stuff and hustling it, right? And this kind of lesson of like stop selling what I do and sell more so the results, this kind of applies on the back end, going through older works, touching things up, bringing things constantly up to the current tier or level of your threshold of your skill. This kind of happened the previous year with all the Kena work. I had done it all 2 years ago. It was mostly fine for what it was, but yeah, it was rough in places. It was a quick job. I was firing images out left and right, and I definitely needed to go back this year and touch them up just a little bit, little things here and there, and make sure they're a little bit better in terms of like internet ready. So I did that, you know, and I, you know, I have students that do that all the time. Like, hey, this is fine for where it is. I look at this image again in 6 months. I'll say go back, revisit it, be open to that. If you see changes that are just you're keeping you up at night, it definitely kind of helps. So number 2, right? There's measurable perfection in the real world, and I said, you know, there's at least a mark to hit on a lot of day-to-day things. Think of like, oh, I have to cook a dinner or prep a burger or make a salad for my family. It's easier in our ecosystem to measure what that perfect meal will be like, or to clean, you know, the living room and get it looking perfect, you know, after a tornado of toddlers run through. It's just, there's a lot more easy things to measure perfection with on our actual day-to-days compared to something far more deep and far more subjective like painting and like drawing. And that is because it's a subjective level of measurement, and that metric for success, you know, is constantly moving, right? We're moving those goalposts further and further. Our skills are getting better. Even sometimes at the start of a piece to the end of the piece, sometimes we find a different reference at the start of a piece to an end of a piece. It starts to pull us in a little bit of a different direction. When we bring in new influence, we bring in a new reference, that potentially moves that goalpost in a different direction, and it gets harder and harder to measure. Hey, is this perfect? Is this perfectly working out? And so I'm still getting better and trying to reinforce very specific goals, setting up sheets. I've put videos out on this, like where I really art direct a project at the start of it, whether it's for a client or myself, laying out the goals that I want to achieve with it. That way, whenever I'm making a decision, I can always measure it against what the goal is for a particular piece. And I'm not needlessly like, oh, what's perfect mean in terms of the lighting of the sky here, or is that brush stroke over there? No, it's like, is it saying what it needs to say is far more important. Another way of looking at this kind of point too is, you know, paralysis by analysis. And that's really just like overthinking every little moment and trying to like overcome everything with pure logic and force, when it's like just, again, taking a step back, calmly easing into things, being open-minded to where the work is taking you, and is it, you know, of course, aimed at a very particular goal. And I do this with my own stuff all the time, and the way to, like, I try to not to overthink things or push myself too hard in this regard is just improving, let's say 5 to like 10% at a time. So that means like when I'm working on a new piece, or like in 2021, I did a lot of learning and or practicing of different workflows. I would try to do things that are 80% already things that I'm familiar with or comfortable with, and I'm just pushing, my own personal envelope, the last little bit to the finish line, like just a different type of camera angle or effect, or the level of complexity of the design itself. It's like just subtle things. I'm just that way, like, I'm on my own shoulders, and I can really feel good about a lot of it innately, and I'm just struggling super super hard on that last little proportion of it. Therefore, it's kind of like that's the best way to grow in many circumstances, is to have, you're dangling that carrot at the end of the stick. So I'm kind of keeping up with it, but I'm constantly kind of going further and further with that. Because if we do things too easy, we essentially go on autopilot. We just crank things out. We stagnate, right? We don't grow. So it's like, okay, gotta up the intensity in some incremental sort of way. For all of us, it's always going to be different, right? All right, so number 3, it's not as important as you achieving the goal as the person you become in pursuit of it. So that's an important one. And for me, that there's a couple things that go with that. Things like just loving the process, always, reframing that idea of failure, and that, failure is always the first attempt at learning, and that's all right. But like the big one here was actually a lesson after I wrote this I saw last night watching Cobra Kai. It's a great show. But, like never put the passion in front of principle. Mr. Miyagi in the shows used to say that, but it's true. It's like if I want to become like the best artist or designer in the world or amongst my colleagues, what for me personally, what would that cost? I would have to work weekends. I'd have to work later nights, so that's less sleep. That's less time to balance my physical, fitness with that. There's a lot that would be compromised for me to like really overhaul my skill level, and to get whether it's a promotion, with working at a company, or upping a certain kind of deal with a particular client. And if I were to do that, my first kind of core belief in principles, like family's got to come first. Family's always got to come first. I got to take care of my kids. I have to be there for them. I don't want to be the dad or the parent that's just always gone, always working, that always puts other things first. I grew up with some of that in different ways. So I have to make sure their needs are met first. And it's tough sometimes. And I have gotten a little spouts with my wife, like that maybe I'm working too hard and stuff. It's a constant internal struggle. I've said this on that channel before. So it's like, yeah, if I do get that level of success, what I want, what kind of dad am I going to be as a result of that? Or what kind of husband will I be as a result of that? I'll be the best artist in this circle, but it's like, was it worth it at the end of the day? It's you always kind of keeping my compass in tune, making sure focus is where it needs to be at any given moment, and making sure my priorities are always in line. So number 4 lesson for last year was obviously to grow, need to adapt and to change, which I've kind of already alluded with this video. But doing what we've always done won't bring that next wave. I see this most commonly with some students. So typically on our first meeting, we'll talk, go over their goals. I'll really try to figure out them, get in their headspace, and I'll often enough, we'll end up on their Instagram or some kind of social media. We'll look at what they're doing, and we're like, and they'll tell me before they even do this. And a lot of them come to me in the first place because they're like, I'm stuck. I'm trying to get better. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. They need that other set of eyes that can help them with that. And after looking usually like 2 glances at their work, I'll know instantly. A lot of them get into that comfort zone, whether it's some kind of portrait or maybe it's like a bust shot of a character, maybe it's just soft, lush environments, and that's all it is. Some artists, of course, there's exceptions out there that can just do almost one thing and always make that work for them universally. But that, it's not the most common thing that's going to happen for a lot of us. So it's like, okay, let's grow. How can we do this? Let's start adding in other ways to challenge yourself and to push your work further, so you're not just regurgitating the same kind of idea or theme again, and again. And it's as simple as that, is bringing in basically different external influences. This is said to true to like a lot of the students that just come in only being influenced by like manga or anime, just like one type of art. Right, and you could see it. You guys could see it out there, obviously, all the time on the social medias, when an artist will only have absorbed, only let one kind of art really define who they are. But it's like, have you looked at 19th century illustrators on the American side? Have you looked at Japanese Orientalist painters from like the 1600s? Like, there's always things you can get from our history and culture, and when you narrow it down and only limit yourself, right, to like one aspect of it, it's going to severely limit and hinder the growth of like anybody. And so that's a huge part of it as well. For me personally, this year or last year, right, it's been a few things. Like for my business to grow, for my client base to grow, I've had to adapt many ways to help this. And for the first part, because if I need more time with family, I need to delegate more work. That's been tough for me. I like to be super hands-on with things, and I'm getting better at that. But it's a process. And so part of this whole deal too has been collaborating with others, which I think is always great. It's always healthy, but it's given me the opportunity, particularly in 2021, to get some of my favorite colleagues, a lot of my past favorite students in particular, ones that stylistically and visually kind of align with my stuff, and really get to work with them and to go back and forth quite a bit to build really fun worlds and create exciting imagery. And yeah, it's a way for me to adapt to let things go, even if it's out of my control, and just right, it's trusting others too, letting someone else take the reins and trust that they have it. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's been a bit of a liberating experience as well, because it allows on the business side for it to grow. If I'm always in the work just painting, if it takes 20 hours, let's say, per really good image or a project, then I have to say no to other jobs, which is okay. But like if I spend, let's say, 5 hours on a project doing the negotiating, talking with clients, and then I set up, I delegate it and then collaborate with others to, hey, here, I've kind of got this far, this is what we need to do, take it all the way. And then I can, freeze up 15 hours, I can jump on to the next one, set it up, rinse and repeat. So it's allowed me to grow in that way. And then also this year, it's just been like working on, really cool personal projects that I've never tried before. I've done a lot more sci-fi art this year. It's been absolutely amazing. I love sci-fi. Up to this year, didn't do much of it. So I'm really just I'm having fun with that. And it's it's not that much different than fantasy. There's the themes that are different. Maybe some of the architecture, the materials are a little bit different sometimes, but that's that 5 to 10% that is different, that I'm really unfamiliar or comfortable with, and I'm bringing that into my personal work and absolutely just enjoying it. And so the last one here, number 5, it's a bit more of a big one, I think, but again, it's always, instead of just pitching or selling what we do, right? I think there's more to be said with adding value to what the services are. Again, not just letting them speak for themselves like I mentioned before, but it's just like really trying to exceed expectations as often as possible for any type of client. Managing those expectations has been a huge thing I've been working on and learning, for like the last 6 to 8 months. I'm still not super amazing at it, in my skills, but I'm actively trying to work on that. So what does that mean exactly? It's kind of just like going into certain meetings, having very clear goals, knowing when and when not to bring up prices and how to work in availability so you can let the client know, what exact deliverables are going to be there, when they can expect them. But it's just like, not hey, I could do this, I could do 10 environments for you, I could do it in like 4 weeks, right? It's not just pitching yourself and saying, hey, right, I'm the best for the job. No, it's like a large part of that is just talking to a client, getting to know them a little bit, right? Especially in like the first kind of interactions, figuring out, right, most importantly, what their needs are, and being honest with myself. I'm like, am I, or is one of my team members the best fit for this job? Like, okay, and then like figure out the money side of it, like way after, like, because that shouldn't be the most important thing to come up. Like, I wanna focus the first conversations with clients, and I'm trying to get better at this, is getting on the same page as them, right, to figure out if it's worth mutually pursuing and taking, that relationship even further. The same too on the teaching side of it. Sometimes when I see certain styles or interests, when I'm feeling out a student, and I'll just be honest with them, like, I'll give the disclaimer, I'm not the best person to cover this particular subject. I feel like I can help you in this area, but I'll say, like, I feel like if you really want to go all the way with this, you're going to more than likely need to find additional help, or I can at least point them, in the right direction. As I'm like, I wouldn't be the guru. I'm not a master of everything. I wouldn't be the, there's particular things. And I've made the mistakes earlier this year or last year of overselling what I can potentially do, for clients. I'll talk up what I can do, and I don't think that's the healthy way to approach it. Part of what I've been learning is that often can lead to miscommunication down the pipeline. Like, a client, because I've talked myself up, a client's going to expect that I'm delivering them almost like a masterpiece after that first meeting, after we first discussed the project. But it's like, in my, and maybe it's my head or maybe in the conversation, like, no, we're going to rough it out first. We're going to plan it out. I want your approval, then we'll go all the way. But because they think I can do it so well, like, they really get off put when they don't see something already at a perfect level on the first or like the second meeting. And it more so becomes a communication problem, and it is absolutely something that gets better with experience. But yeah, it's a whole other thing. Like, it's hard to practice without just getting that experience. So I'm definitely finding now, if I slightly undersell or be more passive about what I can do, because I figure that the clients probably come to me in the first place because I don't apply for jobs, then they're already interested in the work, so I don't need to oversell them on what I could do. I can just reaffirm, like, yeah, okay, I could handle this for you, and then really over deliver. So for me on the day-to-day, that means, like, if a client just wants some sketches, gonna put our heart and soul, give them the best sketches we can. That'll come back, right? We'll get feedback. What do we want to, how can we over deliver on this? Maybe with those sketches, it's delivering more than we talked about. Maybe with the work itself, it's going into more detail. Maybe it's, doing extra revisions, occasionally, for without asking for more money or giving them a hassle about it. It's customer service. It's being friendly with them. And then it's just over delivering, being accountable, being reliable in that regard. So when I'm talking about my work nowadays, it's not like, oh, I'll give you 8 thumbnails that'll really give you some good ideas for this. I rephrase the conversation to be like, all right, I'm gonna give you some thumbnails that'll really stand out. It's gonna make your project, glow with life. These environments will captivate, an audience in a certain way, or it's going to make them feel like this at this moment. It's more so focused on the results, and it's the results that your client or my clients are particularly looking for. That's how I'm trying to constantly rephrase that conversation. And yes, like I said, it's tough, and I'm working on that side of business. But it's something I've been learning, for this year, and I want you guys to keep that in mind too if you're going to be working as a freelancer or independently, with your artwork. So that I would put a simple bullet point on, right? I try to not talk in deliverables, but expectations. Like, what can we expect from this? What can I show you? And this is how it will deliver in that regard. It'll make, make the audience feel a certain way, and that, you'll feel confident about it. And sometimes, particularly for students, what does it mean for them as a beginner? Simply put more time in than you're getting paid. And usually on the backswing of that, and this is kind of where I'm in a big transition phase of my career right now, is that I can put less time into things, often enough now, and get paid for more than what I'm doing. So it becomes like a full circle, in that regard. All right, guys, so as I mentioned at the beginning, if you want to get the full kind of length of this, all you got to do is go to brushsauceacademy.com, which will be linked below. Scroll to the bottom and grab the newsletter. If you're already in the newsletter, that's fine. And in 1 week from the launch of this video, I'm going to send out the download to grab this, which is just great for anyone that struggles with making their 3D not look as stiff. It's great for anyone that wants to kind of improve their eye or painting from it. It's nothing super in-depth or anything. It's not even from the actual lesson. It's just kind of like an extra little thing I put together for this video. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and do take care.